The Minnesota Timberwolves have by far been the most surprising team in the NBA this year. Maybe besides the Orlando Magic, I would say they're the other team that I would really consider to be on the crazier side of things. But the Wolves have had a huge breakout year, especially considering what we saw from last year, right? A team that failed to make the playoffs. Everyone thought that they were ass. Everyone was hating on the Rudy Gobert trade because whether or not you still consider that to be a bad trade, the Timberwolves did give up a lot. But I think a majority of the time when we look back at seasons like this, we forget about what happened, right? We forget about the injuries. Yes, we did see a little bit of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert not really playing well together, but you knew that you had potential with Anthony Edwards, and as long as you could really get those two big men to mesh, everything else I feel like would fall into place, right? Considering a lot of the guys around them really seemed to fit this mold that the team was trying to build, and we're seeing this happen right now. Yesterday I got to see the Timberwolves versus Jazz game, and the reason why I say that this is the game that to me made them contenders is because we saw them play without Anthony Edwards, and we got to see both their defense and offense shine. You had players like Cat who really stepped up and took that role as the offensive player for the team, shooting both 50+% from the field and three. He was overall doing great. Another player who I think really stepped up in this game, someone who I believe if the Timberwolves did not have this guy out there, they would have lost the Utah Jazz. That being Alexander Walker, who also shot amazing from the field, shot great from three, but his defense this game, holy shit, his fucking defense, the effort that this guy brings to the table is crazy. He put up 5 steals. I didn't even know he put up 5 steals. I watched the game and I just felt like he was being everywhere, and I didn't even notice that he stole the ball 5 times. Rudy Gobert was also doing his thing. I mean, this team was doing so good. Now, in the first 2 quarters, they didn't really do their best. I will admit that, right? They were struggling. A lot of the times, they struggled to get open shots more than what they did on the defensive end. On defense, they were doing pretty good, right? They really held the Jazz to shoot contested shots. When the Jazz were open, they were knocking them down. I will say that. Another player who I think had a huge impact that won't really get talked about enough or won't get the credit they deserve is Troy Brown Jr., someone who I saw sliding on the ground for balls, going up, jumping to block a shot, running back. I mean, doing things that not every NBA player would do, right? Moments that show effort and hustle and, competitive nature that you want to win this game. And they kept it up throughout the entire game, and we saw that, right? We saw that with Cat's performance. We saw Rudy Gobert play great defense, and I think that their defensive strategy that they came into this year with is another reason as to why they're doing so good. I made a TikTok and like a YouTube short about it, but basically Rudy Gobert went into a darkness retreat for 3 days and came out with the Biggie Smalls defensive idea, or at least had a bit of that piece in his mind, and took it to the coaching staff, and they said, we'll do the Biggie Smalls thing. Basically using Rudy Gobert and Cat as smaller defensive players, if that makes sense. So having them more on the perimeter defense, running around, trying to play more defense all around the court, giving Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels and other guards more on-ball defense time, because a lot of the time, if you have Anthony Edwards off ball, you will end up most likely giving up a shot. So you're getting to really get the best of both your players, and you have Cat and Rudy who are great athletic big men, right? They can run around. They have the ability to run around the perimeter and do what they need to do. And we can see right now that it is paying off. They're the #1 defense in the league right now. And I think it's just now that Rudy Gobert is starting to get his credit for what he's doing. You had the Timberwolves coaching staff that basically said, you know what? On the offensive end, we always get our best offensive player and say, what do you want to have for yourself, right? What runs do you want? What plays? How do you want your offensive format to be? That's just how the Timberwolves seem to do things, and they really came to the conclusion that we should do that same thing on the defensive end, right? Their defense last year was scrambled, and it wasn't the best it could be. So they went to Rudy Gobert, their best defensive player, as we all know, multiple defensive player of the years, and said, you know what type of game plan do you want? Like I said earlier, this darkness retreat, somehow being in a cottage underground for 3 days, made this man come up with what is now the best defense in the NBA. Now, before I end this, I want to go off on a very high note for the Timberwolves and the fans out there, with this tweet basically saying, in their previous 34 years of existence, the Timberwolves spent a grand total of 10 days as the outright #1 seed in the Western Conference. After beating Utah in the last game, the Wolves have been outright #1 for 10 days this season. And then another great tweet as well is the Timberwolves went 13-2 in November. That's the best record ever by a Minnesota-based MLB, NBA, or NHL team in a single month. And to all the Timberwolves fans out there, coming from a Kings fan, we've been through a lot of struggling times, okay? We've had it. And now is our time. We're seeing the rise of some teams that have been in the mud for a minute right now. In the East alone, you have the Orlando Magic. The Knicks are doing pretty good. I wouldn't say they've been in the mud, but the Pacers are doing super good. And then over in the West, you have the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Kings, the Rockets are doing pretty good. This is when the NBA is the best, in my opinion. When we start seeing these teams that have been slept on for a long time, or have been rebuilding for a long time really come out and show who they are and prove a lot of people wrong. And man, the Timberwolves are doing that right now, currently tied for the best record in the NBA with the Boston Celtics. So yeah, I really just want to talk about the Timberwolves in this video and go over a little bit about last game against the Jazz. Be sure to like and subscribe, click the video up on the screen if you did enjoy, and comment down below your opinion on this Timberwolves team, right? What are they doing right in your opinion? What are they doing wrong? Should they change anything? How can they keep on winning? With that being said though, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Later.